Alright, so in today's video I'm going to cover a fight that I had between the 10MN Confessor and a Sabre and a Falcon alt, a cloaky Falcon alt of the Sabre pilot. Uh, this took place, as you can see, in F7C. This is a nullsec system that's right next door to lowsec, and so it's kind of a bottleneck. It's where people like to kind of camp the gates and catch pilots who aren't used to nullsec mechanics. They trap them in bubbles, they kill them with shit that's kind of common. This whole scheme, this whole thing is pretty common in nullsec. But today, or well, not today, but in this particular case, in today's video, I was working on moving one of my haulers through the system. This particular camper, had caught my hauler once before, but I had been able to come out and rescue it before it got destroyed. So this time and every other subsequent time, I've proactively scoured the route between between lowsec and the system I'm currently staying in. So I had moved my confessor up through the pipe to this system, and I noticed that I had noticed that the Saber pilot was in local. When I jumped into this system, he was on this gate here. There we go. On this gate here, he bubbled, but then I think because I had just killed him the day before, he saw, like, he recognized who I was and all that. Not recognized, but knew this was a confessor, knew it was something that he had just died to. So he didn't really seem that eager to take the fight right away. So he burned back to the gate. I kind of played the whole bumping game with him, trying to knock him off of the gate. But then he jumped into OTAX Z here. So I'm on this side, and I know that I can beat him because again, I had just done it the day before. So I warp up to attack, and I decide I'm gonna try to bait him out, try to get him to engage me. So I warp down to his camp here. I decide that I'm gonna warp down to the camp and see if he'll try to kill me when I'm messing with his setup. So I'll just dive right into it. This fight, the overarching fight, is pretty quick, so I'm gonna take as is kind of my traditional format, I'm gonna take most of the video to kind of break everything up point by point, and then I'll play it through. But again, the fight is kind of short. So, getting into it, I warp down to this bubble, and my intent here is to destroy the bubble as quickly as possible because I know I'm going to be trapped in it as well, even though I know I'm trying to bait. So I land here, I switch to conflag ammo, which is high DPS ammo, and I lock up the bubble and switch to sharpshooter mode. So now I also burn in to within my optimal. So now I'm hitting it as hard as I possibly can, and I'm forcing him to make a snap decision. I am currently trapped in his trap. I'm caught in his trap. So what's he gonna do? Okay, so he jumps back into local. And I know I had already seen him in a saber, so I know that right now I have to kill. I want to kill this bubble as quickly as possible, just so that I can move on to other things. I know that he's gonna, because he's jumped back into system, he's gonna try to engage me with the saber. And as you see, he decloaks here. So now I'm just trying to burn this down, so it's one thing I can check off on the list of things I have to do in the system before I move the hauler through. So now I'm again just trying to burn this down, but he warps to a point. I did a I did a look at there. Well, I was gonna do a look at, I couldn't, which meant that he was initiating a warp. For those of you who don't know, if you are on grid with a pilot, you can alt click on them or right click look at on them, and your camera will go and look at their ship model. But if your camera disengages from them and comes back to you, or if you can't move your camera to them, that means that they are currently trying to initiate some form of warp. So the first thing I did when he decloaked there was I hit Alt click on him to see if I could see where he was going, or to look at where he was aligning to, but he had already chosen to warp down here. So instead, I used my tracking camera, thinking he was going to warp off to a citadel or something. To my surprise, he just warps straight down to near me. So that means he wants to fight me. He's trying to catch me somehow. I don't know exactly what his plan is. My plan is to just catch him and kill him like I've done before. So here I'll preheat my scram and my afterburner because I want to catch him. I think he might try to like play with me a little bit or something. I lock him up, switch to speed mode, and then hit him with all of my. A lot happened right there. I would like to, if possible, I want to see if I can do a step by step. Maybe, probably not. Um, all right. Well, I'm just gonna explain what happened here. I'll figure out some sort of step by step stuff some other time. He chose to burn straight at me to catch me, right? He thinks maybe I'm going to try warping off now that I'm not caught in his bubble anymore. So I had intended to burn after him, but since he came to me, I took the heat off of my prop mod, but I kept the heat on the scram just to make sure that I catch him, and I hit him with all the stuff in my highs. Uh, so that's what's going on here. He decloaks the Falcon alt. So I immediately switch to, well, let me play this. There we go. That. Okay, so I immediately switch to my sharpshooter mode because sharpshooter mode on the Confessor will do two things for me. It will increase my overall damage output, which is why I also overheated my weapons here. It will also increase my sensor strength, which means it will be harder for the Falcon to jam me, which means that I will actually be able to hold the saber and apply damage to the saber. So I'm also starting to take damage from the saber here, armor damage. So I heat and cycle both of my armor reps. Normally I would try to reserve heat on these because I could be in defense mode, but since I'm concerned about the ECM on the field and I need to be in sharpshooter mode, I just heat both reppers instead to get a little extra tank out of them. So I'm burning the saber down pretty fast, but then the Falcon finally locks me. He misses his jam cycle, which is good for me because it means I can pretty quickly finish off the saber here. And with the saber's DPS off field, I'm able to take a moment here, just 1 second as a breather. So I I'm going to cool off my reppers and let them cycle normally because I no longer have the damage pressure from the saber. I'll activate my prop probably, and then I'll switch to speed mode and burn straight for that Falcon because I knew it was gonna be there because he's used it before, and I want to kill it. I almost caught it the last time. I'm going to catch it this time. That was my mindset at least. So I start burning straight at it. Um, I'm still taking a little bit of damage here, but that's because he's using railguns from quite the distance. He does successfully jam me here, and this is kind of one of the important things. I misinterpreted this when I was thinking back through the fight, but when I was watching back through it here prior to this recording, it this didn't matter, but it will matter if you're ever in this sort of a situation. As I'm burning straight at him, I'm watching this jam cycle tick down. That's I believe it's 10-second cycle. Um, I'm closing the gap between myself and him pretty quickly, and I decide that once like I decide I won't need my extra speed. Like I'll be close enough to scram him by the time this is done. So the decision I make here is to switch to sharpshooter mode while I'm flying at him, because that will give me the sensor strength bonus for the next cycle of jams. Now what you'll see here is it actually, well, got a little while here. So I land next to him, but the second round of jams here lands as well. So now I just have to kind of hold out, The Falcon's not really doing anything to me damage-wise. I actually have decycled one of my reppers here, and I injected some cap here just to make sure that I'm topped off. But overall, I'm not too concerned about this. Now, here comes the next cycle. I'm still trying to lock him up, but he's also starting to pull range, and I still can't lock him. But the pulling range bit is kind of significant here because that means that he's trying to get away. I have to catch him if I want to kill him, and so he's burning away. So the only real thing I can do here is what I do. I switch to speed mode. I heat my prop and chase after him. He's burning at 2.4 kilometers a second, and I think this Confessor can do 2.6 with heat. But for some reason, I don't know what he was doing. I think maybe he would like I. So this part of the fight, the tail end of the fight, I don't. I when I watched back through the video, I couldn't really figure out what the guy was thinking. But you'll see it here. He doubles back into me, kind of. So I wouldn't have been able to catch him if he kept burning out this way. But he doubles back, which means that I'm going to be in range to catch him. I pull the same maneuver I pulled before, where I switch to sharpshooter and I attempt to use that to break the jam cycles, but he jams me again successfully. I deheat my prop mod, and here, that I gotta actually step back a second here for myself, because there was this was weird to me. This was weird to me. I don't know what happened here. So I've still got a little while left on this cycle, but I switched to my sharpshooter mode, and it looks like it uh, gave me enough sensor strength to get past the ECM. I'm not sure, but whatever. Uh, Sensor strength is your friend versus ECM chips. So I catch him successfully. He's no longer jamming me for whatever reason, and I start just chewing him apart. And it's an ECM tanked ship, so it dies very quickly here. Um, so that was pretty much the fight. I caught and killed the saber. I chased it down and somehow managed to catch and kill the Falcon. Here I'm gonna double back to the beginning now so we can actually see the fight through and through. So here's me warping to the bubble, switching to con flag, switching to sharpshooter. I lock up the bubble. I approach it. I start firing on it. I activated my prop and decycled it. Checking D-scan for a ship. I know the Cloaky Alt is here, but I'm still checking habitually anyways. Sabre pilot spikes back into local. The Sabre pilot decloaks. I try looking at him. I track him. He warps to me. I heat my prop and my scram. I switch to speed mode. He burns to me. I burn to him. I lock him up. I deheat my prop mod. I activate everything else as he bumps me. I switch back to sharpshooter as the Falcon decloaks. I activate my tank with heat and I heat my weapons. Falcon locks me, fails to jam me. The Sabre goes down. I approach the Falcon, heat my prop, deheat my reps, activate my prop, switch to speed mode, lock up the Falcon, attempt to lock up the Falcon, burn at it with heat. I inject some cap and decycle my reppers and recycle them. I cool off my prop and switch to sharpshooter mode, but still can't lock the Falcon. He's only got rails and drones though, so I decycle one of my reppers since I'm topped off on armor. I keep approaching him in sharpshooter mode. He starts burning away with his MWD on at 2.4 kilometers a second at peak. So I approach him still, switch to speed mode, heat my prop. It looks like he was actually approaching that wreck, so he kind of slingshots past it and starts burning back to me. I switch to sharpshooter and I want to say it appears that I break his lock or something there. And then catch him. He almost gets out of my scram range even with heat, I think. So I'm heating my prop to reapproach him while in sharpshooter mode. I inject more cap, take off my heat on my mids and and heat my weapons and burn him down. Then I catch and kill his pod too. So that was the fight. Again, I'm very pleased with how this Confessor is handling out in nullsec. It seems like a lot of the traps that you run into when you're traveling around, they're either gonna be insta lock things like scepters, or they're gonna be things like these sabers. But regardless of which of the two of those types of things, at least, that you run into, with a ship that has an oversized propulsion module, specifically an afterburner, an oversized afterburner ship can pretty easily get away from uh, stuff like that, usually by crashing gate, reapproaching gate. So if you get insta locked by a scepter, like a stiletto or something, you can just crash gate. If you get bubbled by a saber, guess what? You can just crash gate again. So that's that's a pretty it's a pretty versatile ship. I'm kind of wanting to look into other types of oversized prop fits now that we're out here. So that was pretty much that was pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the fight. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one.